The silent disappearance. The Galactic Council declared Earth a dead world in the year 2487. The final transmission from humanity had been received nearly 50 years earlier, a desperate plea for aid as their homeworld descended into chaos. Solar flares of unprecedented magnitude had ravaged Earth's infrastructure, followed by climate collapse and resource wars. When relief ships finally arrived, they found only ruins, radiation, and silence. Humanity, the upstart species that had so briefly touched the stars, was presumed extinct. The declaration was met with mixed reactions across the galaxy. Some species mourned. Humans had been creative, unpredictable allies. Others secretly celebrated the removal of an unpredictable variable from galactic politics. Most simply moved on. The universe was vast, filled with countless species and civilizations. The loss of one, even one as curious as humanity, hardly registered in the grand scheme of cosmic affairs. The Artathi Collective wasted no time. Their science vessels arrived first, cataloging Earth's biology before the radiation could claim it all. Their research stations sprouted like mushrooms across what had once been called North America, their angular architecture rising from the ashes of human cities. The Divanri hegemony claimed the resource-rich asteroid belt and the former human colonies on Mars. They demolished the primitive habitats, replacing them with sprawling mining complexes that bore deep into the red planet. The abandoned orbital shipyards of humanity became salvage operations, stripped for any useful technology. The Zinthar Dominion, always practical, established monitoring posts on Earth's moon. From there, they watched, studied, and compiled data on the death of a world. Their historians documented the fall of humanity with clinical precision, another footnote in their vast archives of extinct species. For 2 centuries, the solar system once called home by humanity became a crossroads of alien interests. Trade routes were established, territories firmly claimed, and Earth itself became nothing more than a curiosity, a place where scientists and thrill-seekers ventured to walk among the bones of a failed civilization. None bothered to look further. None questioned whether a species as tenacious as humans could truly have vanished so completely. That changed on the day the signal came. At first, the Zinthar monitoring station on the dark side of Earth's moon dismissed it as background noise, a faint pulse, barely distinguishable from cosmic radiation. But it persisted, strengthened, and finally formed a pattern too regular to be natural. The signal originated from the Proxima Centauri system, the location of humanity's first extrasolar colony. The Zinthar commander, a veteran of border disputes with the Artathi, ordered a scout ship to investigate. Standard procedure for any anomaly. The vessel departed with a crew of 14 and never returned. When communication ceased, the commander assumed equipment failure. When the backup communication systems also failed, he suspected an accident. When the emergency beacon remained silent, he reluctantly reported the incident to Zinthar Command. The response was immediate. A Zinthar battle cruiser, the Unwavering Doctrine, was dispatched to investigate both the signal and the missing scout ship. Armed with the finest Zinthar technology and crewed by experienced veterans, the cruiser entered the Proxima Centauri system with sensors at maximum range and weapons primed. They found nothing. The system appeared empty. No scout ship, no signal source, no signs of habitation. The human colony, abandoned centuries ago, had been stripped to its foundations. As the cruiser conducted a methodical sweep of the system, its captain logged his disappointment. Another waste of resources on a ghost signal. That was the last transmission from the Unwavering Doctrine. When the battle cruiser also disappeared, the incident could no longer be ignored. The Zinthar Dominion called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 24 species gathered in the Grand Chamber on Zinthar Prime, their voices rising in concern and accusation. The Divanri are responsible, the Zinthar representative declared. They have long coveted our territories near the former human space. Absurd, the Divanri ambassador replied, his chromatophores flashing indignation. Perhaps your ship simply malfunctioned. Xinthar technology has always been unreliable. The Artathi representative, a tall, multi-limbed being, raised all four of her arms for attention. We have also experienced irregularities. 3 of our research outposts in the former human territories have gone silent in the past month. We assumed local phenomena were responsible. Silence fell over the chamber. 3 Xinthar vessels and 3 Artathi outposts, all in or near former human space, all gone without warning. The Council's attention turned to the Gaxthi, masters of surveillance and intelligence. Their representative, a hovering crystalline entity, pulsed with blue light as it spoke. We have detected unusual energy signatures in 16 systems formerly occupied by humans. These signatures do not match any known technology. They appear briefly, then vanish before we can analyze them. We have also noted that quantum communication relays in these areas experience momentary disruptions, milliseconds only, but consistent. The council chamber erupted in shouted questions and demands. The Gaxthi representative waited for quiet before continuing. There is one more thing. The pattern of these energy signatures and disruptions is expanding, moving outward from the former human territories, methodically, purposefully. The Thraxi Warmaster, representing the oldest military power in the galaxy, spoke for the first time. His voice, synthesized through translation tech, filled the chamber. We face an unknown threat in known space. I propose a joint reconnaissance force to investigate these incidents. The motion passed unanimously. Within days, a fleet assembled. Vessels from a dozen species, armed with the finest weapons of each civilization, crewed by their most capable officers. The fleet departed for the edges of former human space with a simple mission: identify the threat and assess its capabilities. They never reached their destination. At the very edge of former human territory, as the fleet prepared to make its final faster-than-light jump, every vessel simultaneously lost power. Emergency systems activated, then failed. Communication systems went dead. Weapons systems remained unresponsive. On the bridge of the Thraxi flagship, the fleet commander watched in horror as a swarm of objects materialized around his ships. Black, angular vessels that absorbed light rather than reflected it. They moved with impossible precision, surrounding the fleet in a perfect formation. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The alien vessels simply held position, scanning the powerless fleet. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, they vanished, taking with them the 5 largest ships of the coalition force. The remaining vessels regained power hours later. When they limped back to council space, their crews brought with them only questions and fear. The recordings showed little. The black ships had somehow distorted any attempt to scan or photograph them. The only clear image came from an old optical telescope aboard a Xinthar science vessel, a single frame showing one of the black ships up close. On its hull, barely visible against the light-absorbing surface, was a symbol, a double helix, the ancient human symbol for DNA. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session that lasted 17 days. By its conclusion, the truth could no longer be denied. Humanity had not perished. They had simply disappeared, gone silent, and now they had returned. But they were no longer the humanity the galaxy remembered. As if to confirm this realization, a message was received simultaneously by every governmental system in council space. It contained no threats, no demands, just 5 words in ancient human English. We are coming home now. The revelation. The message sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Species that had ignored or forgotten humanity scrambled to understand what was happening. Historical records were reviewed. Former human territories reassessed. Defensive perimeters established. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for humanity's next move. It came one standard month later. The Artathi research station on Mars went silent first. The Divan remining operations followed hours later. By the end of the week, every alien presence in the Sol system had vanished. Stations empty, ships abandoned, personnel nowhere to be found. Earth itself remained untouched, still bearing the scars of humanity's apparent destruction. Scout ships sent to investigate found only empty facilities and deactivated technology. Nothing was destroyed. It was simply vacant, as if everyone had simultaneously decided to leave. The only clue came from the final automated transmission from the Zinfar lunar base, a massive energy signature approaching from deep space, followed by complete silence. Admiral Kovex of the Thraxi Defense Command ordered a blockade of all former human territories, the largest military force ever assembled. Over 3,000 vessels from 27 species formed a defensive line spanning hundreds of light years. Advanced detection systems watched for any sign of the black ships. Strike teams stood ready to respond to any incursion. They waited for 87 days. Nothing happened. As tensions began to ease, the blockade reported its first contact. A single black ship appeared at the edge of scanner range, seemingly observing the defensive line. 3 Thraxi destroyers moved to intercept. What happened next was broadcast live across the galaxy. The Thraxi vessels, pride of the most advanced military in known space, opened fire with their most powerful weapons. Energy beams, gravitic distortions, and exotic particle weapons converged on the lone human ship. None reached their target. The weapons simply stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed. Stopped, as if they had struck an immovable wall in space itself. The energy dissipated harmlessly into the void. The human vessel made no move to return fire. Instead, it broadcast a message, audio only, in a synthesized voice that sounded almost apologetic. "We mean you no harm. We are reclaiming what was ours. Please withdraw from our territories." Admiral Kovex, watching from his command ship, ordered the destroyers to retreat. As they turned, the human vessel vanished, leaving only a brief distortion in space-time. The incident was analyzed by every scientific mind in the Council. The conclusion was disturbing. Humanity had developed technology that violated understood physical laws. They could manipulate space-time itself, neutralize any known weapon, and appear or disappear at will. How had they achieved such advancement? Where had they been hiding? The questions multiplied, but answers remained elusive. Until the Gaxthi made their discovery. Deep in their archives, a Gaxthi historian found records of unusual astronomical readings from the time of humanity's disappearance, not just around Earth, but near several human colonial systems. Momentary disruptions in space-time, similar to those now associated with the black ships, but on a massive scale. The historian's conclusion sent ripples of disbelief through the Council. Humanity hadn't gone extinct. They had left. Intentionally. All of them. But where had they gone? And why return now, centuries later? The answer came from an unexpected source. A Devandry salvage team working in an abandoned human orbital facility discovered an intact data core. Most of its contents were corrupted, but one file remained readable, a research proposal titled The Ascension Project. The document described a radical plan. Facing extinction from solar instability and resource depletion, a consortium of human scientists had proposed an alternative to conventional space colonization. They would use experimental technology to create a pocket dimension, a space between spaces, where humanity could rebuild, evolve, and one day return. The Council dismissed it as fantasy. Such technology was theoretically impossible, but the evidence before them suggested otherwise. 7 days after this discovery, the human ships returned, not one, but hundreds, appearing simultaneously throughout former human space. They bypassed the blockade completely, appearing inside the defensive perimeter as if it didn't exist. This time, they didn't vanish. They stayed, expanding outward from former human worlds, reclaiming territory without firing a shot. When alien ships approached, they simply found themselves unable to maneuver, their engines temporarily disabled until they retreated. The galaxy watched in mute horror as humanity methodically reclaimed every world, every asteroid, every space station they had once inhabited. The process was inexorable, efficient, and completely bloodless. Then came the invitation. Representatives from every council species were asked to attend a gathering on a neutral world, a gas giant's moon that had never been colonized by humans or other species. Curiosity overcoming fear, they agreed. They arrived to find a gleaming facility waiting for them, constructed in mere hours by technology that assembled matter at the molecular level. Inside, they met humanity face to face for the first time in centuries. They were still recognizably human, bipedal, with the same basic features. But there were differences. Their eyes contained swirling patterns of light. Their skin occasionally rippled with information displays, and they moved with a fluid grace that suggested enhanced physiology. A human representative stepped forward, a tall woman with dark skin and those luminous, swirling eyes. She introduced herself simply as emissary. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice resonant and clear. "We understand our return has caused concern. We wish to explain." What followed was a history lesson that left the council representatives speechless. Facing extinction, humanity had indeed implemented the Ascension Project. They had created a dimension parallel to normal spacetime, what the emissary called the fold. There, time flowed differently. While 3 centuries passed in the galaxy, humanity experienced millennia of development. "We evolved," the emissary explained, "not just technologically, but biologically, cognitively. We integrated with our technology. We expanded our understanding of physics beyond conventional limits." A holographic display appeared, showing human ships emerging from distortions in spacetime, not through conventional faster-than-light travel, but by folding space itself, stepping from one point to another without traversing the distance between. "We did not come to conquer," the emissary continued. "We came to reclaim our heritage and establish a place for ourselves in the galaxy once more. We have taken back only what was once ours, and we have done so without bloodshed." The Thraxi representative, still smarting from the ineffectiveness of their weapons, spoke up. "You have demonstrated power that threatens every civilization in the galaxy. How can we trust your intentions?" The emissary smiled, a surprisingly human expression on her evolved face. "Because if conquest were our goal, this conversation would not be happening. We could have taken your worlds as easily as we reclaimed our own." The truth of this statement hung heavy in the air. Humanity had returned with power beyond comprehension, yet had shown remarkable restraint. "We invite cooperation, not conflict," the emissary concluded. "We have much to share, much to learn from each other. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us." As the representatives departed, they carried with them a mixture of fear and hope. Humanity had returned, transformed beyond recognition, wielding power that defied understanding. Yet they offered peace, cooperation, even friendship. The question remained, could the galaxy adapt to this new reality? And what would happen if humanity's offer was rejected? Part 3. Reclamation. The council chambers on Zinthar Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives argued bitterly, their voices rising in fear, indignation, and confusion. At the center of the debate, how to respond to humanity's return. "They have demonstrated power we cannot match," the Gaxthi representative observed, its crystalline form pulsing with nervous light. "Logically, we must accommodate them." "Accommodate invaders?" The Diganri ambassador's skin rippled with angry red patterns. "They have seized territories that were legally claimed after their presumed extinction." The Thraxi warmaster, usually the most aggressive voice in any conflict, remained unusually silent. When finally recognized by the council speaker, his words silenced the chamber. "I have reviewed all tactical data from our encounters with human vessels. Their technology operates on principles we cannot comprehend, let alone counter. If they wished us harm, we would already be destroyed. I recommend peaceful engagement." The admission from the galaxy's premier military power sent a clear message. The council voted overwhelmingly to establish diplomatic relations with the returned humans. But not everyone accepted this new reality. Far from the Council's watchful eye, a coalition formed, the Preservation Alliance, composed of hardliners from a dozen species who viewed humanity's return as an existential threat. Led by Divanry extremists who had lost valuable mining operations in human space, they began assembling a clandestine fleet. Their plan was simple: strike at the heart of human territory with overwhelming force before the humans could fully re-establish themselves. Not a war of conquest, but a decisive show of strength that would force humanity to accept limits on their expansion. The fleet gathered in a remote system, far from established trade routes. Over 300 ships, armed with the best weapons their respective species could provide, many experimental or prohibited by Council law. They prepared for a lightning strike against the recently reoccupied human colony on Mars, a symbolic target that would demonstrate their resolve. They never launched their attack. As the fleet made final preparations, space itself seemed to shiver. The stars briefly dimpled, as if viewed through rippling water. When the distortion cleared, the fleet was surrounded by black human vessels. Not hundreds, but thousands, arranged in a perfect three-dimensional lattice that extended beyond visual range. No communication was received, no demands made. The human ships simply waited, their presence a silent statement that needed no elaboration. They had known about the fleet from the beginning. For 23 hours, the standoff continued. The Alliance commanders debated their options: fight, surrender, or attempt negotiation. Before they could decide, another ripple passed through space, and the human fleet vanished, leaving them alone once more. The message was clear. The Alliance fleet dispersed, its members returning to their respective territories in humiliated silence. The threat of military action against humanity died that day. Meanwhile, the emissary and her delegation arrived at Synthar Prime to formalize relations with the Galactic Council. The proceedings were broadcast across all civilized space, watched by trillions of beings across thousands of worlds. The emissary stood before the full council, her evolved human form somehow both familiar and alien to the assembled representatives. When she spoke, her words were translated into every council language simultaneously. "We come in peace, but also in truth," she began. "Our departure centuries ago was not just a response to crisis, but a choice. Humanity had reached a crossroads. We could continue as we were, limited by biology and physics as conventionally understood, or we could seek transcendence." Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing humanity's journey, their entry into the fold, their millennia of development in that pocket dimension, their gradual transformation from purely biological entities to something more complex. "In the fold, we remade ourselves," the emissary continued. "We merged with our technology not to become machines, but to transcend the limitations of both biology and artificial intelligence. We learned to perceive reality not as fixed, but as malleable. We discovered that space, time, and consciousness itself are more fluid than any species has yet realized." She extended her hand, and the air above her palm shimmered. A miniature star system appeared, planets orbiting a yellow sun, perfect in every detail. "We return not to conquer, but to complete a journey. Earth was our birthplace, but the galaxy is our home. We seek not dominion, but partnership. There is so much we can learn from each other, so much we can accomplish together." The council representatives watched in stunned silence as the miniature solar system expanded, showing new structures around planets and moons, elegant habitats that seemed to grow organically from existing environments without disrupting them. "This is our proposal," the emissary explained. "We will confine our full reoccupation to our former territories. We will share certain technologies, those that will benefit all species without creating dangerous imbalances. In return, we ask for recognition of our sovereignty and cooperation in scientific and cultural exchange." The offer was generous, more generous than many had expected. Yet questions remained. The Synthar representative spoke first. "You say you spent millennia in this fold. Why return now? Why not earlier or later?" The emissary's expression grew solemn. Because we detected something approaching, something ancient and vast that moves between the galaxies. We have seen only its shadow, felt only its first tendrils, but it is coming. And when it arrives, all life in this galaxy will need to stand together. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The emissary continued. We evolved not just for our own sake, but because we glimpsed what lies beyond the known. Forces that operate on scales beyond conventional understanding. Forces that have shaped the cosmos since its beginning, and now turn their attention to this small corner of creation. Images appeared above the council floor, vast structures between stars, patterns in the cosmic microwave background, anomalies in the fabric of space-time itself that formed a coherent pattern, pointing toward something moving toward the galaxy from intergalactic space. This is why we returned, the emissary said, her voice resonating with conviction. Not for conquest, not even merely to reclaim our heritage, but because what comes next will require all of us together, evolved beyond our current limitations. The revelation silenced the council chambers. Whatever they had expected from humanity's return, it wasn't this, not a warning of cosmic threats beyond comprehension. In the days that followed, the Galactic Council ratified a series of treaties with humanity. Former human territories were officially recognized. Exchange programs were established, allowing limited sharing of human technology and knowledge. Research cooperatives formed to investigate the anomalies humanity had detected. For the first time in its long history, the galaxy's diverse species began to think of themselves not as separate civilizations sharing space, but as a unified front against cosmic forces beyond their individual comprehension. And at the center of this new unity stood humanity, once presumed extinct, now returned as shepherds guiding the galaxy toward transcendence. The species that had briefly touched the stars before their apparent destruction had returned to lead all sentient life toward a new understanding of existence itself. The stars had forgotten humanity, but humanity had never forgotten the stars. They had simply been preparing for a return that would transform not just themselves, but all life in the galaxy. As the emissary had told the council in her final address, we did not evolve just to survive. We evolved to ensure that all life survives what comes next. Together, we will face the dark between galaxies, and together, we will illuminate it. The reclamation was complete. Humanity had taken back their worlds, their future, and their place in cosmic history. But it was only the beginning.